Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Lennox, and your staff for your efforts. You're very clear in your September 23rd evaluation that the FHFA has too few examiners, which goes to the very basic ability to conduct their operations. Can you confirm that, in fact, is your conclusion? And second, what can they do to increase the examiners? Otherwise, they're under-resourced and non-effective.
Well, the FHFA told us that they have too few examiners, and we concur with that assertion. We've recommended a number of things that they undertake to remedy that. Number one, we asked them to study the issue because, as I mentioned earlier, shortfalls in examination capacity may be mitigated by strengthening operational risk or strengthening conservatorship. So we asked them to study that. The agency has taken a number of actions to mitigate that, and we've recommended that they train to increase the number of accredited examiners, potentially hire detailees and contractors from other agencies, and finally to be transparent about these examination shortfalls because Congress and the American public need to understand their ability to regulate Fannie and Freddie.
But are they moving aggressively to fulfill your recommendations and to correct this, and they have the resources to do it?
Well, I believe that they are moving aggressively in this area. I know that they have reorganized the agency and made examination a priority. But it's been very difficult, from what I understand, based on my conversations with Mr. DeMarco, to attract examiners. It's already difficult when you're not in a conservatorship, when you're not in a financial crisis. It's very difficult when you are. I do think that examiners are reluctant to come to the agency because they don't know where their future lies. So this has been a very difficult area. I know the agency has been putting out notices and advertisements. So I'm confident that they are trying as best as they can. From what I've heard, however, they're having trouble meeting their goals. And we're continuing to monitor and work on this. And we'll certainly brief you in the committee.
I think you have to, because you've identified just a key, fault line in the agency. Let me just shift gears slightly, but I think we've all been talking around this topic. The essence of the conservatorship is to maintain as best you can the value of the assets of the enterprises. At least that's my viewpoint. And there is a constant debate whether that is done simply by sort of maintaining the status quo, or it's done by engaging in modifications of some of the mortgages, changes. All of that is at the heart of what these discussions about HAMP and its successor programs. Have you taken your office a perspective on how well they're doing managing or maintaining the value of the enterprises? And have you evaluated whether alternate approaches like mortgage modifications, et cetera, would yield more value over time?
Senator, let me respond in two parts to your question. I think first this issue about monitoring the sale of assets and the modifications issue sort of underscores the tension that we've seen between sort of the housing mission and safety and soundness mission. And what we are doing is looking at how the director is sort of balancing those missions as it, as he promulgates policies and so forth. So transparency is absolutely critical. We're trying to take a look at, the rationale, the analysis that's being done, and trying to ensure that independent judgment is exercised and not undue deference on the enterprises. Let's see. The second question. Can you just repeat the second question? I'm sorry, I've lost my my train of thought.
You assume my train is running better than your train. I
had two parts.
had two parts.
I forgot the second
You had two
part.
parts. But I think basically the remaining question rests on this whole topic of how well they're doing maintaining the value of as a conservator. And let me just, you give me the opportunity to elaborate just a bit and very quickly. One is part of this is all about where the housing market is moving. If the housing market starts appreciating, then guess what? They'll look like geniuses because they've held on to these assets, or they've had Fannie and Freddie held on. If the market keeps deteriorating, then I think you could make the argument they should have disposed of the assets, modified the mortgages, done all sorts of things, and they haven't done that. So there's uncertainty based on market movements. But the other complicating factor, frankly, is because of the sheer size of Fannie and Freddie, what Fannie and Freddie does influences the market. So it is a very complicated, volatile situation. And again, from your perspective, are you trying to evaluate how well they're doing maximizing or maintaining, I guess maintaining would be better, the value of Fannie and Freddie, given that the market's future is uncertainty and the fact that Fannie and Freddie influences the market? It's almost like particle physics. It's pretty complicated, so.
Got it.
Thank you, sir.
Senator, we're looking at this issue from a number of different angles. Our repurchase claims report is sort of one way we've addressed this, looking at how well they're doing in recovering taxpayer monies through the repurchase process. So, there are a lot of different ways to slice this. The other way we've started looking at this is the real estate-owned property. To me, holding that property or selling it quickly obviously is a very important and tricky balance that needs to be made. If you hold that, obviously you've got carrying costs and you've got blight issues and so forth. If you sell it too quickly, it could affect the housing prices. And so we have an ongoing audit in that area. But we're looking at this from loss mitigation from a number of different angles.
Right. Well, I appreciate that, and I think that's absolutely critical because we don't want to compromise the independence of FHFA, but we don't want an agency that's paralyzed because of the complexity of the issues they face and the uncertainty, and your office can help direct them. And I think you put your finger on the right terminology that I've been struggling with, which is minimize losses. And either through a creative REO, renting it out, selling it quickly, modifications, et cetera, to take all those off the table and just sit pat, I think, is not the way to minimize losses going forward, unless you're very lucky and the market comes back on its own. Thank you.